I'm Jeff Brown. Just a little bit about my background and why I'm even here with Squigl today is that I've been kind of a serial entrepreneur my whole life. Patrick Donahue, who's usually part of this group, has been a close friend that I've done a lot of work with over the last 10 years or so while I'm in my retirement years, as I say. I've kind of flunked retirement, and I sold my last business. It's been almost 11 years ago now. It doesn't seem that long, but I kind of started out my career early on at Apple. I was at Apple in Cupertino from 1980 to 85. Left there, kind of my claim to fame is being fired with Steve Jobs at the time that he got fired. I was part of the close team around him, and my responsibility was mainly the culture and innovation of the company at that time. And people go, well, why was culture and innovation part of the same discipline? And I said, because we were a company that was always being innovative, and if we didn't have that as part of our culture, it just didn't happen. So if you think about Apple back in those days, our why of being in business was to change the status quo and to get people to think differently. And whenever we hired somebody new, that was the first thing we asked them was, how are you going to change the status quo, and how are you going to get people to think differently? And if they couldn't articulate that, or at least think about that as part of their own passion, they probably didn't get hired. So it was how we created the culture and how we created the innovation. So from those days at Apple, it gave me that spirit to go out and try to develop and do new things. And so I've had a myriad of companies since that time, and it's way too long a list to get into, but some of them were very successful and some of them were very strong failures. So I think I learned a lot more from the failures than I ever did from the successes. Today, in the last 10 years, I've been spending most of my time around the Twin Cities doing mentoring for small startup companies and also doing lecturing in the entrepreneurial programs at McAllister and the University of Minnesota, and working with companies out of Cocoa. When Cocoa first started, I worked with Kyle and Don to help get that going and worked with organizations there. So one of my coaching clients now is Squigl. And Squigl started, how many in here have ever used or looked at whiteboard animations? And so whiteboard animations probably started and became in more prolific probably about 10 years ago. I think the first time I saw them really being used strongly was, it would have been 10 years ago at South by Southwest down in Austin. They had every presenter, they would have an artist in there doing animations on a whiteboard, and then they would record that as the artist was drawing them, and then that would be the tool that they used to give out to people that were in there listening to that lecture or that presentation so that they'd have a reference for it. So a normal whiteboard animation takes several weeks to do because the artist has to physically draw things up there, and then they have to record it and they have to put all the timings together and create the video. And it usually costs a couple $1,000. Today you can find people that can do it for a little bit less and a little bit faster, but the process has never been animated or automated. So what we did with Squigl is we built an AI engine that now takes and allows that whole process to be done dynamically by the computer. So, but what's really interesting to me is not so much the fact that we can now build whiteboard animation videos in minutes instead of days, is the fact that in using Squigl, one of the first people that used Squigl was a professor at Harvard University. And he saw this and he said, I want to test this out. And he teaches medicine at Harvard. And he started doing his lectures using Squiggles each day instead of using PowerPoints. And he began to realize that the students that were listening to those lectures were retaining things in a much greater way than when he was using PowerPoint or Keynote. So he did a test of measuring classes that would listen to his lectures using PowerPoint, and then also classes listening to his lectures using squiggles. And they were getting about 40 to 48% higher retention with a squiggle than they were with a PowerPoint. And that was the part that was fascinating, because then he started doing research about we look at our brains. They're not word processors, they're image processors. That's the way they work. And so when we started tying very simple images to words, that retention level went up. If we did it with more complex images, it didn't. So Squigl, so instead of me talking about it, let's just play this. And I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. Oh, might help if I turn my...
Created a discipline steeped in neuroscience and the arts to create a...
Apologize, but we can't get the sound to work.
We call this discipline scribology. Scribology focuses on viewer attention and information retention. Retention of the message is the ultimate goal to effect change, but we need the viewer's attention to reach retention. The first principle of scribology is the message itself. Each of the following principles is engineered to successfully communicate the message. The second principle of scribology is story. Story is how people process information most effectively, and we've known this since we were living in caves. Modern examples of this research can be found in a New York Times article, Your Brain on Fiction, by Annie Murphy Paul. Story gives us context, explains causation and relationship. Stories benefit both attention and retention. Squigl relies on users to tell stories at the moment, but we see ways we can aid them in telling better stories in the future. The third and fourth principles are a dynamic duo that focus on viewer attention when they are motion and surprise. Our lizard brain's historic job has been to scan our surroundings for motion, asking and answering the questions. Can I eat it? Can I mate with it? Will it eat me? It does this to ensure its own survival. This part of your brain can even force your head to look at the cause of the motion. Most recently, the Wall Street Journal article entitled "The End of Typing, the Next Billion Mobile Users Will Rely on Video and Voice" asserts that the use of voice activation and video output will be the preferred mode of communication in the future.
The next one just happens to be
steeped in neuroscience to create effective whiteboard.
That when they came up about Oprah, they used Squigl to create the Oprah's people, whoever they are. They created used Squigl to create a whiteboard animation of her profile on LinkedIn. So if you go to Oprah's profile on LinkedIn, there's a link there to go watch the Squigl video. So, but anyway, that you kind of get the idea. Anybody remember everything that just said? We'll see how the retention level is on Squiggles, right? Anybody tell me a little bit about what they think it said?
There are 12 points, but I don't remember them.
Yeah, the key to the Squigl is the fact that a simple image tied to a word is usually kept in the brain longer than just a word alone or an image alone. And the fact that we can now tie them together makes it much more effective. The real key, though, is how fast it can be done. So,
Animated video.
I'm going to go in and actually make a Squigl video. Sit down and do this. Okay, so somebody give me a title of what they want this to be.
Why is it snowing in April?
Why does it snow in April? Okay. I'm just going to, why snow, just for ease of typing. Now, there's two ways to put content into the engine, which is this area right up here. And that can either be cut and paste, type it in, talk to Siri or Alexa. It'll take it in that way. I don't have either those operable right here today. But so let's just go in and find a website like, how about Million Cups? See if I can find some content on here. Sorry about that. About 1 million cups. We'll just grab this content. Paste it into the Squigl. And because we don't have a recording tied up to it, I'm just going to let the computer create its own voice. So what's going on now is it's going in and reading that content and just creating a computer voice and recording it, reading the content. And once it did that, I'm going to hit the button to go create a video. So this is kind of where all the magic happens. What's happening at this point is that our Squigl engine is an AI engine that's tied to Watson, IBM's Watson's AI engine. It's also tied to Microsoft's AI engine and Google's AI engine. So it can go out and interact with any of those. And so it's learning, the more of these we do, the more it's learning about how to take that content and look at what contextually it's trying to say. And then it'll pick out the key words from that content and create the glyphs or the GIFs for those key words and build the video. So that's how fast it can build a video. Again, this used to be a several week process and a couple $1,000. Now you can do it for, I mean, our subscription model right now is $20 a month, and you can build as many videos as you want for that. So it's pretty low cost. So we'll just play that one.
1 million cups based on the notion that entrepreneurs discover solutions and network over 1 million cups of coffee. The Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation developed 1 million cups in 2012, a free program designed to educate, engage, and connect entrepreneurs with their communities. 1 million cups is now in more than 160 communities across the country. We work with entrepreneurs, empowering them with the tools and resources to break down barriers that stand in the way of starting and growing their businesses. Mr. Kauffman believed it was a fundamental right for anyone who had a big idea to be able to bring it to life, and we're here to fulfill that mission.
So that wasn't exactly real smooth, but it wasn't bad for just allowing the computer to spend a minute or two analyzing the content and reading it and creating the video. But now you can go back and edit it. I mean, you can do whatever you can do your own voiceover. You can have professional voiceover. If you're friends with Morgan Freeman and you like his voice, you could have him doing it. I mean, that's all part of the process. But it's very simple to edit. So you can go down here and let's say you don't. Like, I don't like this the GIF that it picked out for business. So it's going to go into the library of GIFs that it has, or you can go down here and say, I don't like any of those, and I'll draw my own, and I'm not a very good artist, but just for the sake of drawing something, you can see. And that will then be the one it uses, or you could pick another one out of the library, and that library just constantly grows the more people put images in there. Or if you don't like any of those, you can go out and search the internet using Google or Bing or anything like that, pick out an image and put it in there. So it doesn't have to just be a GIF. You could, like you saw in the Science of One, you saw that we actually pulled in articles, we pulled in book covers, all those kinds of things, and they became part of it. So that's how simple it is to edit. You can change the timings if the timings aren't right just by moving that line there, and you can see that that work is now only going to be 1.8 seconds instead of 3 seconds. So all the editing tools are there to make your video as sophisticated as you want it to be. Some people like using a hand in their video instead of just having the glyphs come up there. They want it looks like it's actually drawn. So you can either have the hand or not have the hand.
Resources to break down barriers.
And we had a project we're doing for Walmart right now. We actually had to have 5 different colored hands. So for ethnic reasons, they needed to have a hand for each different ethnicity of people that worked in the company. So they have their choice of having a white hand, a red hand, a yellow hand, a black hand, and just part of the things that the computer can do, or the software can do. So anyway, you can see it's just, we've taken what used to be a fairly complex software and making whiteboard videos and making it a very non-complex, making it very easy for people to use. So it's, anybody got any questions or comments or anything about this?
Is running in browser, or is it a local installed app on the computer?
It's a web-based browser.
Okay.
So yeah, you can access it from any place you have a web connection. So it's a web platform, basically. Yeah.
How's the product been selling so far? Like, what kind of problems have you been having with it, or with getting them traction as such?
We started selling it at about 3 months ago, so not very long, beginning of the year. We worked on it all last year and getting it developed. Now, we had beta clients that we worked with. We worked with the Harvard professor that wrote that white paper in the Scribology video. We worked with him, and he was the one that did a lot of the measuring of class retention out at Harvard using this tool. We also worked with a number of professors at St. Thomas here in town and at Capella University. So our key go-to-market strategy was to be in education. So that's where we've been focusing our testing. But we haven't really gone out and promoted this to the consumer market at all yet, or to the business world yet. But we have about 12,000 subscribers in 3 months. And they're paying $20 a month to go in and make unlimited videos. That's what the cost is. And we have enterprise licensing programs on a per seat basis. So we, as I was talking to Kevin earlier today, we just started a program with a division of 3M where they're using Squigl now to create videos as explainer videos for products. So if somebody calls in and got a problem with how to use a particular product, they can click on the Squigl video and watch it and see if that helps them understand how to use it. So we're starting to see application in the business to consumer world. So we have that kind of an enterprise thing. We have a project that I can't talk about at this time that we're doing with Microsoft Classroom, and also a project that we're doing with Google Classroom, where they're going to hopefully integrate it into their deliverables, into the school systems where both Google and Microsoft Classroom are being used, which is probably 90% of the schools in the United States are either using one or the other. Actually, Chrome is about 60% and Microsoft is about 30%. It's amazing how Chrome has taken over the classroom. But
So what kind of problems are you having with
none yet.
No problems yet?
No, none yet.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing incredibly well.
Yeah. So the only problem, if you want to call it that, is that we didn't anticipate some of the things that the business world wanted to do with it. So we're constantly having to update and add features, like the multicolor hand, for example. For that project with Walmart, they said they couldn't use it unless it showed the different ethnicities in it, where the person that was going to be using it could choose depending on their audience. Now, the other thing, we have a project that we're doing with a company in Mexico right now and we had to build we had to add to the engine so that when we inputted English in there, it also would come out in Spanish. So if I wanted to finish this one up and I could actually have a choice there to have closed captioning on the video, and it would, if I put it in English, the closed captioning would be in Spanish, or if I wanted the prominent language to be Spanish, then the closed captioning would be English. But the engine itself now can record in multiple languages with just one bit of content entered into it. So, and we've been working with Google's translator on that, and that's getting better and better. It's not the best yet, but it's doing pretty well. So,
how large is the team? How many people in the company?
Right now there's about, we have 12 developers and 4 of us that are kind of in the sales and management side. So not very big yet. So, yeah.
So the output generated is a video file, right?
Yeah, it's an MP3 or MP4. You can choose which one you want.
And then do you host those, or do we?
We can either host them, or if I finished one of these, you have a choice then to pick if you want to. There's 2 ways that when you finalize one, you get embedded code, so you can just embed that into. Like if you were doing a PowerPoint, you wanted to squiggle inside the PowerPoint, you could just embed that code in there, and you could have your squiggle right inside your PowerPoint. Or you could create a URL. We automatically create a URL for you that just creates a link. So you can put that into whatever you're going to be presenting with, and just click on the link. So, but that's all automatically done too.
Another quick question. I saw that you can bring in images and incorporate those into it. Can you bring up like a screenshot and then use drawing to annotate the screenshot?
Yes, you can. I mean, I can demonstrate all this stuff for you if you want. I'm just not, yeah, but yeah, you can. You could, so like if you wanted to pull up an image off of the internet that you had the right to use, you could add whatever you want. You could draw a figure on top of it. You could add a text to it, whatever you want to, and that's all in there, in the editing tool as well. Yeah.
If you wanted to give an actual speech where you actually speak and have this do the drawings instead of the PowerPoint slides, can you do that, sort of make it, paste it to your...
Yep. You can set it up like a PowerPoint where it will move from one to the other based on a click or whatever action you want. Yes, you can do that. So most of the professors that are using it down in St. Thomas or over at the U right now, that's how they use it. They'll create their lecture in Squigl, and then they'll create the timing set up so that they manage that timing on when it appears and when it doesn't appear.
So your subscribers right now, what are they using it for?
I don't know, quite honestly. I mean, all of a sudden we're starting to see squiggles pop up. I mean, if you go out to YouTube and do a search on squiggles, there's a bunch of them out there that we didn't even know were there. It was just people that had subscribed to the service and started creating their own. We didn't know that Oprah's people did that one until we saw it on LinkedIn one day. In fact, there's quite a few people that are starting to subscribe and create a LinkedIn profile using Squigl and adding it to their LinkedIn sites. Yeah. So.
What kind of competitors do you have? Competing products?
We haven't found any. We've been trying to, but I mean there are dozens of companies that do whiteboard animation, but it's as a service, and even this Squigl came out of one of those companies. There was a company called TrueScribe out of Madison, Wisconsin. And they're a service. You can go in and hire them, and TrueScribe still operates today. The people that started TrueScribe are investors and shareholders and stockholders in Squigl, because we used some of the IP that they developed down there, and then we automated that. But we haven't found anybody that's created an automated tool like this, at least in the whiteboard video animation side. So, yep.
Do you envision the tool eventually being able to do this on the fly, as if it were the artist in the room at South by Southwest? Because it seems like record, let the computer draw the thing, and then you can replay it.
Mm-hmm.
But to have it go in real time based on your voice, is that part of the vision, or is that a little too much?
We actually have a beta version of that going right now. The biggest problem with it is the power it takes to do it, the speed. And so we can do it. I can, if I had it set up here, I didn't bring it today, but if I had like an Alexa or my Siri working, I could talk into this, and the contents will go into that engine, and it will start creating those images. But in order to do it in a real-time fashion, to have it sync with me, I have to have a pretty powerful processor sitting there doing that to be able to do it as fast as you want it to. Now, if I was talking real slow, I could, it's a matter of computer power. But the capability of doing that is there. So.
Did the Harvard guy do a test to see if just presenting the information, when you hit the magic button, all you're getting is animation and drawings? Does that hold your attention and tell the story as well as it does if you're the teacher in the room and you're speaking and having this behind you? I think it's a one tool. If what you've got is 100% animation, it feels to me like if I'm giving a presentation, I'd want to have a guy with the animation going on at the same time.
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not smart enough to know that, and I haven't ever asked anybody. But the white paper that he wrote was based on his creating his own squiggles for his lectures. So it wasn't that he was lecturing and the squiggle was going on as he was talking about it. He would actually pre-record it, and rather than him having to speak to the class, he would play that and then do live question and answers based on that lecture.
Love the model.
Yeah.
One question we always ask is, what can this community do to help Squigl?
You can all subscribe. That's one way. And if you don't want to subscribe, just go to our website is Squigl, SQUIGLIT, squigglit.com. At some point in time, it'll probably just be squigl.com, but right now we're still just using the Squiglit because we're not out there promoting to the masses. So you have to know what that URL is to get there. And we have a free version. You can go on, and if you don't want to subscribe right now, you just click on try it free. And I don't remember what the setup for. I think it's 7 days. But you can create unlimited videos for those 7 days that you're doing it free, and take that MP4 file and use it wherever you want to. So it doesn't cost you anything to create them today. And if you won't decide it's something that has value for you, then you can subscribe and keep going. So
Is the free trial full featured?
it's full featured. Yep.
Let's give Jeff a round of applause.
Thanks.